Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are, and welcome to our webinar, Innovative On-Demand Cloud-Based Performance Testing. We're happy to have you with us today. We'll begin the webinar with a couple of polls, and what this allows us to see is who we've got in the audience, and we can tailor our content depending on that. So we'll launch the first poll now, and when it comes up, if you can take a look at it and reply with your answer. The first question is about your degree of experience using the cloud today. And when we ask that question, it's more around infrastructure as a service type cloud, so an Amazon EC2 or a Rackspace. If you could take a second and answer this question with your response, and then we'll show the answers to everyone on the webinar. Okay, and here are the responses. So it looks like there are a lot of people who haven't yet started using the cloud that way today, but also a decent amount, 27%, who are very serious. So this is a pretty good distribution in the audience in terms of cloud activity and cloud experience. So thank you for that. Now we'll go to the next poll, and the next poll is around performance testing. And if you have a web application that you want to performance test, so we can get a sense of that. So if you could take a moment and answer this one. Looks like the answers are coming in. We'll just take one more moment. Okay. Good. So a lot of you have a project where you're trying to find a solution for obvious reasons. I think that's why you're on the webinar. Or you're just starting to research the solutions, and some of you are ahead of the game and aren't quite there yet, but already looking to see what options are available. Great. Okay, this is a very good response for us. We'll be able to get into the demo, and I think you'll be really interested in what we have to show you today. And then one last question, and that is about what's important for you in a performance test. So if you can take a moment here to reply what's most important for you in a performance test. And just one more moment. We'll give folks a chance to answer the question. All right, looks like we're done here. And wow, pretty strong response in terms of having the ability to analyze your data to fix performance issues. Okay, that's great. The CSS team will talk about that as part of their presentation. And now we'll get started with the webinar. My name is Elise Arthurs, and I'm Director of Partner Marketing at RightScale, and I'll be introducing our speakers today and our agenda. We've got Dean Derricks from RightScale. He's our Director of Strategic Alliances and Channels, and he'll be presenting about RightScale and what we offer. And then we have Amr Abbas, who's the Senior VP of Cloud Services at CSS Corp, and then Anil Parambath, who's VP of Performance Engineering. We also have Jonathan Curtin, who's an account manager at RightScale, and he is on the GoToWebinar for you today to answer questions. So the way that we do our webinars is we ask you to just send us your questions during the entire webinar, and Jonathan will answer those, as well as he'll put some aside that we'll answer in the live Q&A at the end. But regardless, all of you will have your questions answered by the end of the webinar or a little bit after the webinar. We really focus on trying to make sure we answer all your questions. So if you can just use that question tab on the GoToWebinar panel you see on the side of your screen, you can just put your questions in during the entire webinar. And as always, we do record these webinars, and so it will be available afterwards on rightscale.com/webinars. Now let's introduce you to the agenda today. We'll first do a brief introduction to RightScale. Dean will take you through that, and then an introduction to CSS Corp, one of our partners, as well as CSS will take us through a demo, and then at the end we'll answer your questions live. So again, keep those questions coming. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dean Derricks. Dean, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Elise, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar. A little bit of information on RightScale. I'll take a couple minutes just to introduce you to the company and the platform, and then we'll pass it on to Amer. So RightScale was founded in 2006. The value of the platform was really to focus on how to reduce common tasks associated to building, automating, and maintaining systems and assets in infrastructure as service clouds. Today, over 25,000 users are leveraging the platform. I believe we are now reaching over 2.4 million servers have been launched under management leveraging the platform. And if you were to do the math here, I can share with you a little bit. Partners and customers of RightScale are influencing close to or a little over 2% of daily internet traffic. Some of these brands below you may recognize: Zynga, Lily, Sony Music. These are production deployments, some of actually the largest production deployments on the cloud to date. Next slide, please. So RightScale offers a fully automated platform delivering orchestration, automation, and world-class management control. RightScale is an abstraction layer above the infrastructure and below the application, enabling users to build systems and assets that can be leveraged across clouds or regions. The idea around RightScale is build once, reuse, and or repurpose in those clouds of your choice. Now, the RightScale platform and partner program enables world-class partners like CSS to innovate above the stack, delivering solutions like the one that you'll see today. The platform enables partners to deliver solutions faster, easier, consistently, with better agility, choice, and control. Next slide, please. When we talk about those three bullets, agility, choice, and control, let me tell you a little bit about that. As you look at this first bullet, reducing complexity with server templates, the idea is around RightScale is to introduce a methodology in which you can create these templates that serve as we'll call them dynamic machine images across platforms. They enable you to dynamically make changes. They enable you to create and leverage a template across multiple servers that share those variables within those deployments. You're able to manage at a system level versus servers as you look at changes within that server. And we introduce a way to orchestrate systems, build systems that can be reused, and automation which takes place along with the platform to reduce the amount of system administration required when maintaining these systems. As we talk about maintaining choice, again, as we mentioned, a big part of our value is that you're creating these assets and you're creating these systems that can be leveraged across multiple clouds. Those are private hybrid clouds or public clouds. And we also introduce a configuration asset library which enables users to build these common systems and reuse these common assets across these clouds. We've introduced a ISV partner ecosystem which contributes to this library to give you assets that you don't have to build from scratch, but assets that can be used across the platform and platforms. And then obviously control and security, and this is better access and role-based permissioning on users and how the assets are used and who's using them. We offer cost control and allocation with the platform along with complete transparency across the platform. So those are some of the value propositions that the RightScale platform delivers for our partners today, like CSS. Now a little bit about our user conference. Next slide. So RightScale is participating in the Cloud Expo and will actually be hosting our RightScale user conference, our biannual user conference. This will take place on Wednesday, June 8th in New York. There will be RightScale sessions, which we will have subject matter experts along with our executives and thought leadership to talk a little bit more about what we're seeing in the market, what are common trends, and where this is going. We'll have customer presentations, and we will also have partner sessions where customers will be able to hear about partner solutions that are available today on top of RightScale. So we hope that you don't miss it and that we are able to see you there at the conference. Now, I'd like to introduce Amer. Amer is the Senior Vice President of Cloud for CSS and will be introducing us to their company. Take it away, Amer.
Thank you, Dean. Let me just set it up here so we can see my screen. Okay. Once again, my name is Amer Abbas. I am Senior Vice President for Cloud Services at CSS. I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce our company to you. We've actually been working with RightScale now for a few years. It's our second year of our relationship. CSS is headquartered in San Jose, California, and we focus on something that we call operations optimization. And what that means is that once you've actually acquired technology, you've built your networks, you've built your data centers, you've deployed applications, we then come in and help you optimize the operations of those applications, make them run better. Your customers can use those applications easily, as well as in many cases try to support your customers in helping them adopt your technology. We have about 5,600 resources that are split and spread out all over the world. A large portion of them are located in lower-cost economies such as India and Philippines. And then the rest of the organization is located in the United States, primarily in 3 locations in Salt Lake City, in Dallas, and in Boston. In Europe, we work out of our operation centers that are located in Poland, as well as in London. And then in the Asia-Pacific region, we are located in Singapore, Australia, as well as in our core operations in India. We are privately funded and have been around since for the last 12 years. One of the things that we do focus on is innovation. We have a dedicated R&D organization that is constantly looking at ways how we can build and provide solutions to our customers to help them optimize the utilization and deployment of their technology solutions. Some of our key differentiators, primarily, we are very technologically driven. What that means is that we've been working with the enterprise product companies for several years and tend to be the organization that provides a certain amount of detailed technical support for very complex products out there in the market directly to customers. The ability to have that deep technical expertise allows us to actually come up with interesting ways that we can optimize the delivery of those services to our clients. And we're also fairly nimble. We're not a very, very large organization like some of the other outsourcing organizations. So we're fairly nimble, flexible, and we sort of work within the parameters that our clients come up with. We do have a global delivery model, like I mentioned, so not only do you get the benefit of our organization being very, very close to our clients directly, but in many cases you also get the benefit of being able to leverage resources that might be located in lower-cost economies. Our services tend to expand and traverse across the different areas within the technology lifecycle. So we work with organizations to manage the infrastructure, we have applications running. We work with organizations to support their products. We'll help them, in some cases, develop their products. And then we'll also help them do a fair amount of performance testing and functional testing on those products as well. And then we're going to actually discuss that in a fair amount of detail in this webinar. But one of the other key areas, for us is really focusing on innovation and innovative capabilities. We do have a dedicated R&D organization that has been involved in cloud for many, many years now. And one of the products offerings that we've come up with and innovation that we've come up with out of that effort is really our cloud-based performance testing platform that we'll discuss with you today. From an overall cloud services perspective, we do consider ourselves to be one of the premier cloud managed services organization in the market. What that means is that we actually provide our customers with three broad categories of services. The first is really on the upfront designing side. This is where we work with our clients to look at their particular applications or their particular deployment scenarios, come up with architectures and design that leverage both the public cloud as well as the private cloud. We look at how you sort of optimize the deployment on the cloud. We'll look at various testing methodologies that can be deployed for this application. And once you've sort of architected that solution for you, we sort of move into the next sort of category within our service offering, which is really on the management side. So we'll help our clients, after we architect the solution, we'll help them get deployed on the public or private cloud. But then at that point, also be responsible for the 24/7 operations and management of that. Our cloud operations centers are located around the world, so we can do follow-the-sun coverage for our clients. And they are staffed with people that can essentially do base level support, but that are also very, very familiar with operations of cloud-based infrastructure, very familiar with utilizing the RightScale platform to do the orchestration and management of the environments that we are managing for our clients. And then finally, everything that we deliver within that area is tied to very specific service level agreements. And our service level agreements tend to be above and beyond what you may typically get from a infrastructure as a service provider. So we will actually not only guarantee sort of the traditional uptime of the infrastructure, but we'll actually tag along and on top of it, guarantee the actual uptime of the application that you're delivering to your constituents. And those constituents could be your customers, or they could be your internal users as well. And then finally, the third element of our services really on the cloud support side. And what that means is that, while we'll help to design the application, we'll help to essentially monitor and manage it from an operations perspective, we also can be relied on to help support the product or the application that you're actually running. So we do provide 24/7 customer support services, 24/7 technical support services for your application. And again, we can provide those services to your end users or to your customers and your customers' end users as well. They are multilingual, so we can support Japanese, Chinese, Korean, French, Italian, Spanish, and a multitude of other languages. And again, these entire sets of portfolios are tied to very strict and targeted SLAs, and that's how we tend to differentiate ourselves in terms of being one of the premier managed services providers. One of the key areas that I probably just want to spend a little bit of time on is really when we do look at sort of upfront analysis and of our clients' infrastructure, we tend to break it down into 5 distinct activities that we do. And the first one is really looking at it from a technical assessment in terms of understanding the application, classifying the application, and then coming up with the appropriate architecture, potentially even doing some financial modeling for you and saying whether working with a particular IaaS provider is better than working another one, or a private cloud solution might be optimal from a financial standpoint for a particular application. Once we've actually done that, we'll come up with the cloud architecture for you. And as part of that, we'll actually look at how we can utilize RightScale as part of your core OSS strategy in terms of being able to operationalize the management of your cloud environment, not only from the upfront setting up part, but then also from a day-to-day management of that. Once you've done that, we'll actually do a proof of concept. We potentially build a pilot and actually show your applications running successfully on the cloud. And then at that point, we can move your existing applications, either part of them or do a complete sort of forklift migration for you onto the cloud. And then finally, we get into the optimization phase where we look at, how do we optimize the way that the cloud infrastructure is working for your application, and then how do we actually optimize the application itself. And this is very interesting in terms of the responses that we saw to the poll. Our focus specifically would be, what is the type of data we can collect from a performance perspective, analyze the data, and then come back with recommendations on how we can improve the performance of that. So without further ado, let me just ask Anil Parambat, who heads our performance testing organization, to focus specifically on how we leverage our cloud-based testing offering and help clients to improve the performance of their application. So Anil, let me just hand it off to you.
Yeah, thank you, Amar. Let me just share my slide deck. Yeah, hope everyone can see my screen. So yeah, cloud computing, as we know, provides opportunity for engineering teams. You get access to an on-demand, sandboxes on the cloud where you can develop and test. You can build test automation groups. You can share your applications or test machines across the globe. Working with distributed teams. It also, from a production perspective, it gives you, instant scalability. If you deploy it right, you can get the instant scalability, and you're able to deploy in various locations across the globe. These said, there is, challenges, by the very nature of the cloud, you have challenges in terms of how do you test for the scalability, how do you test the downscaling and the upscaling of the machines. And cloud, in terms of you do not have access to the hardware characteristics in terms of what kind of hard disks are being used, what is the I/O speed. So you have varying hardware characteristics. So how do you benchmark your applications, and how do you manage large sets of data? So these are some of the challenges, and I will talk about in terms of how we can help you mitigate some of these challenges. Not only on the cloud world, even in a traditional perspective, if you are building out a large web application, either internal facing or external facing, e-commerce or Web 2.0 site, you still have challenges of testing it in terms. You got to have an environment which simulates that. You need to maintain that, and also you need to have. If you are looking at an internet-facing application, your number of users will be many thousands. So how do you simulate that that number of users without investing in costly tools and then paying huge licensing fees? There are tools in the market which can simulate, but you need to have concurrent users. For that, you need to have the right hardware to do that. And the other challenge is, if you are an internet-facing application, you can test, well internally, but your internet-facing hardware is different from your internal hardware. You have load balancers, you have your firewalls in front of you, you have your CDNs. So all that, if you need to test, you need to have an infrastructure which is outside your environment, which can be on the cloud or can be data centers outside your environment. So that gives us opportunity to leverage the cloud here. The cloud gives us unlimited hardware and different kinds of environment, and it's a pay-as-you-go model. So what we have done is we have developed a tool which we call JLTT, which is very similar to any standard market tool like a load runner or web load. And we have integrated that with the cloud using the RightScale platform, by which we can generate load on demand. We can do the scripting, we can do the scenario design, and we can generate load on demand and either test your application which is built on the cloud, or test an internet-facing application like an e-commerce application. So, but since we do not have a license cost associated with it, the cost and both the environment cost and the license cost it is mitigated here. So you run the test for 5 hours, you pay for 5 hours. On top of that, we can provide you our data analysis services, by which we can analyze the data which is produced by the tool, and integrate that with your data which is collected from your backend servers, and give you tuning recommendations. So many of our engagements, 90% of our engagements, we help our customers tune their applications, whether it is on the cloud or whether it is on their environment. I will, at the end of this presentation, I will walk you through a quick case study where we have improved the performance for our customer and how we did it. Just to, to reiterate again, the CloudTestGo is a performance testing as a service. We provide it as a service. What you provide is basically, access to your application, give an understanding of the right scenarios to test it, and and give us an understanding of what is the kind of load you're expecting, and we'll run the load along with your engineering team, give you the results, and give you our recommendation to tune those applications. And I think to reiterate the testing models, we can either test applications built on the cloud or applications which you are with internet-facing applications where, if you want to, so the example which I'm going to talk about is basically is a banking portal. So they wanted to simulate users coming over the internet, and we use the cloud to test that. As I mentioned, the tool is very similar to tools like LoadRunner. So it has a recorder and a scripting engine. If you have scripts already developed, we do have a converter to convert the scripts from most of the standard tools in the market to a language which this tool recognizes. It has a scenario designer so that you can exactly simulate users using different kinds of transactions. You can define how many users does login, how many users check out, does the checkout. So you can do a scenario design there, and there is a run dashboard which showcases the statistics. And at the end, we post the run. We take the data from the client and we take the data from the server, from your systems across the network and the app server, database servers, and we correlate the data to give you results and recommendations. This is just an overview of the case study. I will talk about this in detail, after I show you a quick demo of the tool. Give me a minute while I, transfer my control to the machine. The demo which I'm going to do is basically an application which we have deployed on the cloud. Again, it's a web application. We do support mobile applications and web services and web applications too. With a controller is a Windows machine on the cloud, and the load generator can be either a Windows machine or a Linux machine.
So, Anil, as you're setting this up, can you give us a little history as to how long this service has been available, and maybe other types of markets that you've been servicing?
Yeah, the CloudTestGo as such, the cloud-based service has been there since 2008. We launched it early 2008, and we've been leveraging the cloud ever since. But performance testing as a service, we've been doing that for nearly 10 years. We have leveraged that expertise to build the CloudTestGo tool.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So as you see, here, we have deployed the application or what we call the CloudTestGo platform on RightScale, and we use RightScale to manage the engagement. This is primarily the load generation service. Your application can be either on RightScale or can be on your environment or can be on a different cloud.
So Neil, describe a little bit about what we're looking at here and what you're doing, if you would please.
So I mean, here on RightScale, we have the servers templated. I've just started up a server. I'm now trying to connect to the server by remote desktoping to that server. So that's why it's taking a little time. It started up and now it's connecting to the server.
Great.
Yeah, I hope you can. Yeah.
Okay, we can see it.
Right. So the tool has a recorder, the script converter which I talked about. So if you have a script written in a LoadRunner or Selenium or any WebLoad, any other tool, this script converter can take that script and convert it into a scripting language which is recognized by this tool. We use, again, this is completely Java-based, but we can take in any scripting languages here. So just like any tool, it has a recorder. So you can put in the URL and record your transactions. And once you have recorded your transactions, we have a scenario designer which helps you design the scenarios in terms of. Let me just show you an example here. So here we have designed a scenario for an application which is an internal application which we have developed. This is an internal portal. Here I'm logging in here. The scenario is basically I'm logging in here, going through certain activities, and then reading some data here, and then logging out. That's the scenario for the test run here. And since we have multiple scenarios here, I'm creating a scenario mix here. 60% of the users is going to the technical screens, while the 40% of the users are going to a different set of screens. So you can mix up your screens here, and you can also apply think times and sleep times here. And what we are going to do is we're going to do a 100 user test. Initially it starts up with 5 users, and then every minute it ramps up to by 5 users, reaching 100 users. And then you can either run it indefinitely, or then you can ramp down slowly. So depending upon the kind of scenario you want to test, you can run it for 5 hours, 6 hours, and analyze the results later. So once you have done the scenario designing, which again is we do it with your help, with the support of understanding your transactions clearly, and then we do the design. Once we have done that, then we whenever your environment is ready, we are ready to run the test. So all this activity happens beforehand in terms of setting up the scripts and defining the scenarios. Then depending upon whenever you are ready, we are available on demand to run the test. There are customers whose sites are internet facing, where they have real users on the site. They run the test, sometimes 3 a.m. in the morning. So we are ready then. We'll run the test, and before other users log in, by 5 a.m. or 5 a.m. Eastern, we are done with the test, and we can take out the results. And as we run the test, again, we collect data across across the system. So if you want us to collect data from your backend too, we provide monitors to to collect data from your backend. On the front end, this tool actually collects data at the element level. So if you have Flash objects, or if you have any different objects, we can exactly tell you how long that object took to load. Whether it was successfully loaded. So we can the tool collects data at an element level here. Just to show you, the kind of parameters which are collected in the front end, by the client, you have all the regular data points like, throughput, HPS, time to first byte, the round trip time, and also, at every page, at every transaction level, we can collect data, how long that, that page took to load and all those things, all the data. Here, let me just quickly show you a few data here on the dashboard. Again, all this data is getting collected in the back end. I'm just choosing a few data points here so that you can see it on the dashboard here.
And Anil, it's Elise. Just to clarify, on this is part of the service CSS manages this all for the customer, correct, with their input?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you're fully managing that for them, but then you also give them some access to do it on an on-demand basis. Is that correct?
No, at this point, the on-demand is more of a, it's initiated by them, but the machine, the system access is completely controlled by us at this point in time. In our next version, we will be giving, an on-demand access to the dashboard. Currently, what we do is basically we share the dashboard over a web meeting so that, they can also see the dashboard while the run is being done.
Okay, thanks.
The service is completely, it's more of a managed service now, but we do have plans to make it, a kind of a self-service option there. But at this point in time, it's completely managed service.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
And as you see, whatever data points you choose, you can see it on the dashboard in a graphical view here. You can also see the data in a tabular view. You can see the various transactions, how much time it took, and also you can monitor the health of the LGs here in terms of free memory, use memory, and the CPU utilization. And once the test is done, the data is collected by the tool. So I'm just going to do a force stop here because it's going to take time here. And what we do is basically we take this data, we correlate with the various the other data collected from your network, from your app servers and the database servers, and we analyze the data and give you recommendations. Again, that is a service choice. If you prefer to have the data, take the data in-house and analyze it yourself, that is an option which you give. But if you want us to leverage our expertise, we can do that for you and give you recommendations to fix those issues. So once your data is collected, you can export all the data into an Excel sheet, and that can be shared across to you. Now let me go back to the presentation again and quickly walk you through the case study. So this is a customer, a banking customer. They had an online banking portal. They had multiple data centers all over the world, and it was developed by a different vendor. And when they tried to go into production, they had performance issues, and we were engaged. CloudTestGo was engaged to to load test that. Not only load test it, but also to tune that application. And here, we did the test. We over the internet. We generated the load, tested the application, and initially we found it was scaling up to about 20 users. And so we analyzed the data, both from the back end and the front end, and we found out, there were, some regular expression mismatch, and the code was actually, misbehaving, and which was actually sucking up most of the CPU time. So we asked the engineering team to fix those issues, and then we ran the test again. Here again, once we found out, once we fixed those issues, we found out further issues in serializations, and in lack of, they were not using bind variables. So there were issues which we found there. We also found issues on the back end in terms of how they had configured the instances. There were some wait events which was there in the database which was fixed. So after the second run, all these issues were fixed, and in the third run, we could see that the application was scaling up to 500 users, and later on we were also to take it to 1,000 user level without any degradation in the application performance, and that's what the SLA with the customer we had. And again here, if you look at it, while the engagement took over, because the engineering team had to fix the issues, so the engagement took over a period of 1 month. In terms of the load generation environment, we spend maybe about 20-25 hours generating the load. So the net cost of the environment cost was only for 20-25 hours. If we had used a local environment, or if you used a different data center, you would have had this environment up and running for nearly 1.5 months. So even if you are, using your own in-house this thing, the cost versus using a cloud, is very vast. So that is, what we have seen is basically just by leveraging the cloud, the 2/3 of the project cost goes down. These are some of the examples of how we analyze the backend data and against the front-end data, and how we match the data to get solutions to the performance issues. In terms of again, different customers have different needs, and depending upon whether you are running a transaction website or primarily a content-oriented website. So we have different service levels. So we do basic testing if you want. If your objective is to primarily test your network and all that scalability layer, we do have basic testing. Or if you have a transaction website where you want elements level performance data, the advanced performance testing where we provide both client and server-side statistics to you. And we also have a full service where, where our analyst gets into your, analyzes your data and gives you performance tuning recommendations. And that can be, more than one run, to completely tune your applications. And from a client side, what we expect is basically, in terms of, the target environment needs to be set up by the client, the test bed needs to be provided by you, and also the right scenarios to be tested. So just to summarize, in terms of service benefits, here, you can generate large amount of load. We can generate by leveraging the cloud. You have unlimited hardware here, so generating 100,000 user test or even beyond that is very easy, and there's no, the cost involved is very minimal. If you're trying to do that in-house, it's going to be a really challenging affair. And it's a pay-as-you-go model. You don't have any huge licensing cost. You don't have dependence on IT. If you are using an in-house environment, you got to depend on IT to set up the hardware. And whenever whenever you want to test it, again, you got to go back to IT to do that. Again, also, you have, you don't have any dependence on the licensing, basically, of tools. We have customers where they already have an existing customer, tool license for maybe 100 users or 200 users, but when they want to do a 1,000 user test, they have to either go buy a temporary license or use a cloud-based service like us. That's it. I'm at the end of the presentation. I will leave it open to questions now.
Great. Thank you so much, Anil, for the presentation. There's several questions that have come in prior to passing the mic to you or Amber. How about if I answer? Looks like there's a couple questions here on the RightScale part. How about if I answer those, and I'll pass these off to you? How about that?
Sure.
Great. So the first question, when you were in the RightScale dashboard, there's a question that came in. What is a server template? A server template is really a description of how a new instance or server will be configured when it is provisioned by the cloud provider. I best describe a server template if you can accept this analogy as really kind of think of a server template as an iTunes playlist where it's very dynamic in nature. So as I'm building out a machine image, for instance, I am building it out and it's dynamic in nature. So if I've got changes to that, to scripts or size of instances and so forth, I can actually make those dynamically without actually having to go into the machine image, rebuild it, and rebundle it and redeploy it. So a server template includes again the base operating system, the cloud credentials specifically to the cloud that it is leveraging, and then we have an abstraction layer away from that. So it's a very, very light system that we provide the ability to dynamically go in and change environmental input variables. We have broken out boot, operational, and decommission scripts. So again, these server templates can be used across a deployment. So that hopefully that is clear to you all. So how about if I read off the questions here, and I'll let you or Amber answer those. So the first question is there a demo of your innovation in your tools over clouds?
So let me just answer that. The performance testing platform, which we call CloudTestGo, is actually completely deployed on the cloud today. Like Anil had mentioned, there isn't a self-service capability yet where we can just point you to a website where you can sort of play around with it. But we can actually give you customized demos off the cloud TestGo platform, whenever you like. So, Anil has his email address there. You can contact him, and then we can get that set up.
Great. And what is the typical savings that your customers have achieved using CloudTestGo model? If you have any examples, I know you gave one here in this presentation, but others that you might have.
Anil, you want to take that?
Yeah, there are two kinds of savings. One is basically purely from a licensing cost and also from an hardware cost. The savings have been between 70 to 80% if you compare an on-premise load testing against a cloud-based load testing model, leveraging our tool. That has been the number fairly, I would say that's a more fairly accurate number. But on top of that, the value which we add in terms of performance tuning, we have been able to tune applications anywhere between 2 times to even 100 times, where the performance has improved by that much. So that we can't put a dollar value to it, but that's another value at which you provide to our customers.
Great. And what about, maybe you can answer this question around how is this tool different from Load Runner or say VS Load Test? If you can give some examples there.
Yeah, in terms of feature set, it is very similar to a Load Runner or any load testing tool in the market. The differentiation is basically the integration with the cloud environment, and also in the ability to build additional plugins on top of the tool, and the ability to analyze the data and give you a recommendation to fix those issues, basically. So from a feature perspective, feature to feature, it's very similar, I would say. But it's basically the cloud-based leverage. And the main differentiation is, Load Runner or any other tool, any other standard tools in the market follows the per-user licensing model. We don't have that. It's basically, for us, we don't have a per-user licensing model at all. We do have, it's basically, you use for 4 or 5 hours, that's what you pay for. While, there you have you either have a perpetual license or you got to buy it for a period of time. So from a feature perspective, there's not much of a difference, but from a cost perspective, there's a huge difference.
Great, thank you. And what about, another question, can we load test Silverlight-based web apps using JLTT?
Yes, Silverlight or Flash or any such rich internet applications, we definitely can load test. Again, there are 2 elements to a Silverlight app. There are actions which happen on your client side, which is primarily client testing. That is not tested by the tool, but your Silverlight app will be communicating with your backend, and that activity is basically is what we are load testing. So whether it is Flash or Silverlight based application or any Ajax applications, this tool can test it.
Great.
And we do have case studies to showcase that.
Now, how is network simulation taken care of over the cloud?
I'm assuming here the question is regarding where you want to really simulate latency on the cloud or within the cloud. This tool doesn't do that, simulating the network latency, but we have other tools which we leverage to create network latency and introduce bandwidth noise and all those things onto the network, so that we are exactly simulating customer scenarios.
Gotcha.
One other comment that I would add is that typically when we are deploying this, we do have the capability to deploy it obviously in the US-based locations as well as in Tokyo, Singapore, and Ireland as well. So in many cases, we can simulate load coming in over transatlantic, transpacific links as well.
Great. Thank you, Amber. And which kinds of loads is it able to simulate or to test? Can you give some examples?
Yeah, I mean, one feature of the tool is the flexibility of the tool, where the load generation engine is separated from the protocol which it generates. So we have customers where they had come in and asked us to generate load using a proprietary protocol. In such cases, we have been able to develop a plugin for them to generate load in that specific protocol, which they but as a normal service, out of the box, it generates HTTP, HTTPS, SOAP protocols, WAP, and SIP protocols too. So these are the the general out of the box supported protocols. But is there a new protocol or a new this thing which needs to be supported, we can quickly develop a plugin for that, and that's what that is I would say is a feature, differentiating feature of this service.
Fantastic. Well, that concludes the list of questions that came in over the course of the webinar. We thank you so much for the presentation and giving everyone a chance to peek under the hood, if you will, of the power of your services and of RightScale. And I'll pass this back to Elise to conclude this webinar. And again, thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks, Dean, and thanks, Anil and Amar. We really appreciate it. So just a couple housekeeping things. Again, we'll be answering any other questions that came in via GoToWebinar, and you can get this webinar on the RightScale website. It's usually posted within about 24 hours from the live webinar, so you can be looking for that tomorrow, as well as we'll email attendees the link. And don't forget our user conference in New York on June 8th, as well as the Cloud Computing Expo in New York that runs June 6th through the 9th, where CSS and RightScale will both be exhibiting. So come visit us there. And thank you very much for your attendance today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.